The tour operator that now owns a company linked to an horrific slaughter of 100 sled dogs near Whistler says it did not order the animals destroyed. The killings happened last year but have just come to light. About 100 healthy dogs were killed and dumped into a mass grave after a drop in business after the 2010 Winter Games. The gruesome event is detailed in documents awarding compensation to a worker who claimed post-traumatic stress disorder after having to shoot the dogs.
The first time I heard about this was on the news. I was floored, complete shock.
Very tragic event, actually. Just to give you a little bit of a rundown, this man, Robert Fawcett, was working for this company, Outdoors Adventures. And anyways, he slaughtered 56 dogs and dumped them in mass grave.
I find it very disturbing to know that animals are at our mercy. And not only that this is a reality, but some people with the responsibility for animal welfare are sometimes bad.
The documents show that when a veterinarian declined to destroy the dogs because they were healthy, their owner felt he had no choice. The dogs were part of a pack of more than 200. The WorkSafe documents say that at one point, the worker had to get into the mass grave to finish off one of the animals. The SPCA calls the killings horrifying and a massacre.
This was a place where terrible, horrible things happened, right where you're standing and right here. This is where they were shot. This is where they died horrible deaths, and while other animals watched them die and were probably terrified and pulling on the end of their chains trying to get away while their friends and family were massacred.
What really affected me by it is also this action of animal cruelty, but also that it happened here in Canada. I just couldn't get my head around it, how sad it was that we actually allowed this. Throughout these 10 years, I decided to start working on an art exhibit about it. Now, this said, I didn't really know how to present that and how to create an event so dark in some ways through my art. Finally, what I decided to do is just remember these little dogs individually. So I have made 56 little pieces of these dogs. Of course, they're fictional, it's not the real portrait, but you get the idea. Now, I put a stop on that project. The first 5 years I worked quite intensively trying to get ideas. Then I put a stop, and then I prepared my exhibit that happened last summer here in Montreal. I received an email from Gary Luz here in Montreal, and she said that she had a small space in her gallery that was available for showing in February for Les Nuits Blanches. Now, ironically enough, in April it's going to be exactly 10 years. So, sad to say, but it's almost like a 10th anniversary of this event, and I could present this art exhibit. So I decided to go and have a look at the space. But when I got there, I was so surprised. It was tiny. It's tiny. It's really, really small. But it was perfect for me because I walked in and I felt exactly that's what I needed. And that was a key element to present this exhibit. The claustrophobic effect that I had, it made me feel like I was in a kennel where these dogs were.
Bob Fawcett goes into great detail about a few of the dogs, and Nora was one of them. And he indicates how he missed the shot with Nora, and he blew off part of her head, and so there was an eye hanging out, and Nora was running around. And so when our constables found Nora, which is, you know, incredible that she was a bit preserved in one sense, being able to then identify this is exactly what happened.
It was Dr. Melinda Merck, a veterinary forensic pathologist, who identified Nora. She was at my table, and we were able to follow the path of the bullet from where it entered the eye socket and out, disintegrating the jawbone. We're even able to trace where Bob Fawcett had sliced Nora's throat and able to show that from the blood that accumulated within the muscle layers that Nora, in fact, had died a slow and painful death over several minutes. She suffered.
Nora was the last element to the exhibit that I had to do. It took me a long time to gather ideas on how to represent the tragic death of Nora. Music inspires me when I create. For Nora, was trying to find inspiration through music. And one day I was scrolling through new songs, and I came across this song by Twitch called Death March. I must have listened to that song over 100 times, and it was the trigger for Nora's piece.
My friend Marie-Ève Marion, Le Trèfle à quatre pattes, was writing her book about animal abandonment, all kinds of stories that she put together, a wonderful book. My first instinct was to message Marie-Ève Le Trèfle à quatre pattes, and wanted her to be part of that project as well. She was writing the book, her first book at the time, and I thought it was perfect.
Abuse has many faces and can take many forms. Of course, physical and psychological abuse, but also psychological and physical indifference and abandonment. I myself adopted many animals through the years, and 2 of them were mistreated and abandoned in a previous life. So of course my motivation to write the book Le Trèfle à quatre pattes was stronger because of those 2 little ones. And I wanted to do something to help other animals in the same situation. So through this book, I wish to encourage not only responsible adoption, but certainly the awareness that an animal is a being of needs and emotions, and he deserves to be cherished and loved all his life. And of course, when my friend Jérôme contacted me to offer this wonderful partnership between his exhibition about the Whistler Sled Dogs Massacre and my book, I was not only very touched, but it was just perfect, because to me, both our projects can walk hand in hand, and because their purpose is the same.
Without going into politics of what happened, court things and SPCA, like there was so many elements that were involved in that story. The main fact remains that the cruelty did happen and the killing was done, and that is not reversible. Through this exhibit, I hope to raise an awareness somehow. I'm not expecting people to enjoy it, because there's nothing really enjoyable about the topic of the exhibit, but I hope it's going to awaken some people, and maybe a reminder that animal cruelty is far from being over. It will always happen.
And it's
our way to fight against
animal
animal
abuse.
abuse.